Good morning, boys and girls. How are you doing today? Just a little face I made just to cheer you up. All right, today is Monday, April 20th. Think in your head, is 20 an odd or even number? And then I also want to let you know how much I miss you. I've been sending letters home. They're coming home. I'm writing them all last week and then into this week, so yours should be coming soon. Also, we need to remember to be respectful, like we are at school, be responsible, and be safe. I like how some of you showed on Seesaw the different ways that you're trying to be responsible and respectful and safe at home. I love to watch your writings and your things that you have to say on Seesaw, so please continue to do those each day if you can. Anything that you have to record, any kind of experiment or anything, even if it's outside of what you're doing in school. Also, some of you know how to do PowerPoints. You could do some of those and you can just email them to me. In my letters that are coming by mail, I did mention 2 different ways to contact me, and one of those is my email address. All right, it's a new week, so we're starting with our new math problems, our new one for, the date is up on the top, April 20th through the 24th. And you can do these in your math notebook. And if you want to show me those on Seesaw, some of you are showing them, some of you are talking through all of them, and you're showing just great work. I love to see it. So for the first 11 problems on this paper, it tells you to find the product. Remember, product is the answer to a multiplication problem. Hopefully you're continuing to study your multiplication facts at home, so these should go really fast for you. And the next one says to draw an array. Do you remember that? An array has the circles on it, or you can do squares, and they have rows and columns. If you're confused on that, maybe you could Google arrays, or you can ask me by email, and I'll give you an example. And then numbers 12 and 13 are word problems. Remember to show your work, write a number sentence, and then to label it as well. And also you can go on to Seesaw or Redbird and Extra Math. And those things will help improve in your math as well. Once again, I'm going to refer back to our packet. It looks like this. And we're reading our book. And I just heard that they came in, so hopefully those will be delivered today, or you will get them some way today. I know some of you already have the book, but we're just going to give them out so that each one has their own copy to keep. Remember, this is what we were looking at. And then for today, on Monday, for must-dos for reading is, before we read chapter 3, which is titled The Family Dog, make a prediction in the packet, right here. This is a page. Some of the pages say page 8 or whatever, but just ignore those pages because they're a little bit wrong. And then follow along or read on your own chapter 3. We'll also have some vocabulary words of pollution, imitate, examine, helium, mug, and brilliant. I noticed that one person in your class got on there and explained what each of those vocabulary words meant. That was awesome. Good job. So now what you're going to do is go to chapter 3. That's right here. And you're going to write a prediction for what you think this chapter is going to be about. I'll give you just a few minutes to do that while I open up the book to chapter 3 so you can follow along. Remember on these videos that you can also play back. That's the neat part about it, is you can play back if you missed anything at all. Here's the book again by Judy Bloom, Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, since you're very, very close to becoming a 4th grader. And it's chapter 3. It starts on page 22. 22 is 2 10s and 2 1s, isn't it? 2 10s and 2 1s. I wonder if you could think of a multiplication equation with a product of 22. Or use 22 in a division number sentence of some kind. All right. Hopefully you have your prediction. If not, don't worry. You can catch up, or you could even pause the video, make a prediction, and then come back to the story. All right. This is called The Family Dog. Nobody ever came right out and said that fudge was the reason my father lost the Juicy Oak account. But I thought about it. My father said he was glad to be rid of Mr. Yarby. Now he could spend more time on his other clients, like the Tottlebite Company. My father's in charge of their new TV commercial. There's the word commercial. I thought maybe he could use me in it since I know how to stand on my head. but he said he wasn't planning on having any headstanders in the commercial. My grandma taught me to stand on my head when I spent the night at her house. Any of you stand on your head? I can stay up for as long as 3 minutes. I showed my mother, my father, and Fudge how I can do it right in the living room. They were all impressed, especially Fudge. He wanted to do it too. So I turned him upside down and tried to teach him, but he always tumbled over backwards. Right after I learned to stand on my head, Fudge stopped eating. He did it suddenly. One day he ate fine, and the next day nothing. No eat, he told my mother. She didn't pay too much attention to him until the 3rd day. When he still refused to eat, she got upset. "Oh, you've got to eat, Fudgy," she said. "You want to grow up to be big and strong, don't you?" "No, grow," Fudge said. That night my mother told my father how worried she was about Fudge. So my father did tricks for him while my mother stood over his chair trying to get some food into his mouth. But nothing worked, not even juggling oranges. Finally, my mother got the brilliant idea of me standing on my head while she fed Fudge. I wasn't very excited about standing on my head in the kitchen. The floor is awfully hard in there. But my mother begged me. She said it's very important for Fudge to eat. Please help us, Peter. So I stood on my head. When Fudge saw me upside down, he clapped his hands and laughed. When he laughs, he opens his mouth. That's when my mother stuffed some baked potato into it. But the next morning, I put my foot down. No, I don't want to stand on my head in the kitchen or anywhere else, I added. And if I don't hurry, I'll be late for school. Don't you care if your brother starves? No, I told her. Peter, what an awful thing to say. Oh, he'll eat when he gets hungry. Why don't you just leave him alone? Now, is that very respectful? That afternoon when I came home from school, I found my brother on the kitchen floor playing with boxes of cereals and raisins and dried apricots. My mother was begging him to eat. No, 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 Fudge shouted. He made a terrible mess, dumping everything on the floor. Please stand on your head, Peter, my mother said. It's the only way he'll eat. No, I told her, I'm not going to stand on my head any more. I went into my room and slammed the door. I played with Dribble until supper time. Nobody ever worries about me the way they worry about Fudge. If I decided not to eat, they'd probably never even notice. That night, during dinner, Fudge hid under the kitchen table. He said, "I'm a doggy. Whoop, whoop, whoop." It was hard to eat with him under the table pulling on my legs. I waited for my father to say something, but he didn't. Finally, my mother jumped up. "I know," she said. "If Fudgy's a doggy, he wants to eat on the floor, right?" If you ask me, Fudge never even thought about that, but he liked the idea a lot. He barked and nodded his head. So my mother fixed his plate and put it under the table. Then she reached down and petted him like he was a real dog. My father said, "Aren't we carrying this just a little too far?" My mother didn't answer. Fudge ate 2 bites of his dinner. My mother was satisfied. After a week of having him eat under the table, I felt like we really did have a family dog. I thought how great it would be if we could trade in Fudge for a nice Cocker Spaniel that's a kind of a dog. That would solve all my problems. I'd walk him and feed him and play with him. He could even sleep on the edge of my bed at night. But of course, that was wishful thinking. My brother is here to stay, and there's nothing much I can do about it. Grandma came over with a million ideas about getting Fudge to eat. She tricked him by making milkshakes in the blender. When Fudge wasn't looking, she threw in an egg. Then she told him, if he drank it all up, there would be a surprise in the bottom of the glass. The first time he believed her, he finished his milkshake, but all he saw was an empty glass. There wasn't any surprise. Fudge got so mad he threw the glass down. It smashed into little pieces. After that, Grandma left. The next day, my mother dragged Fudge to Dr. Cohn's office. He told her to leave him alone, that Fudge would eat when he got hungry. I reminded my mother that I told her the same thing, and for free. But I guess my mother didn't believe either one of us because she took Fudge to see 3 more doctors. None of them could find a thing wrong with my brother. One doctor even suggested that my mother cooked Fudge his favorite foods. So that night, my mother broiled lamb chops just for Fudge. The rest of us ate stew. She served him the 2 little lamb chops on his plate under the table. Just the smell of them was enough to make my stomach growl. I thought it was mean of my mother to make them for Fudge, and not me. Fudge looked at his lamb chops for a few minutes, then he pushed his plate away. "No," he said, "no chops." "Fudgy, you'll starve," my mother cried. "You must eat." "No chops, cornflakes," Fudge said. "Want cornflakes." My mother ran to get the cereal for Fudge. "You can eat the chops if you want them, Peter," she told me. I reached down and helped myself to the lamb chops. My mother handed Fudge his bowl of cereal, but he didn't eat. He sat at my feet and looked up at me. He watched me eat his chops. Eat your cereal, my father said. No, no, eat cereal, Fudge yelled. My father was really mad. His face turned bright red. He said, Fudge, you will eat that cereal or you will wear it. All right, have you heard any of the words yet? The vocabulary words like pollution, imitate, examine, helium, mugger, brilliant. This was turning out to be fun after all, I thought, and the lamb chops were really tasty. I dipped the bone in some ketchup and chewed away. Fudge messed around with his cereal for a minute. Then he looked at my father and said, No eat, no eat, no eat. My father wiped his mouth with his napkin, pushed back to his chair, and got up from the table. What do you think he's going to do next? He picked up the bowl of cereal in one hand and Fudge in the other. He carried them both into the bathroom. I went along, nibbling on a bone to see what was going to happen. My father stood Fudge in the tub and dumped the whole bowl of cereal right over his head. Fudge screamed. He sure could scream loud. My father motioned for me to go back to the kitchen. He joined us in a minute. We sat down and finished our dinner. Fudge kept on screaming. My mother wanted to go to him, but my father told her to stay where she was. He'd had enough of Fudge's monkey business at mealtime, so his father's been putting up with this for quite some time. I think my mother really was relieved that my father had taken over. For once, my brother got what he deserved, and I was glad. The next day, Fudge sat at the table again, in his little red booster chair, where he belongs. He ate everything my mother put in front of him. No more doggy, he told us. And for a long time after that, his favorite expression was, eat it or wear it. Wow, that's literally the way it was, wasn't it? Quite an interesting story. I just want to look at the matrix again. This is your matrix. And remember, look at the math problems. And then there are different things that you can do for science and social studies. I'm just going to read some of these. Walk around your yard and find some trees or bushes that are starting to bud or turn green. Sketch, meaning draw a picture of what they look like. Check on them each day to see how they change. They're starting to bud. It's really fun to watch. Other skills, squeeze your muscles really tight. Hold for 4 counts. Now relax and blow out your breath. Do this 5 times. If you can, do this with someone else at your house. In art and music, find some calming music to listen to while you work on your schoolwork. What makes the music calming to you? Physical movement. Safely and slowly crab walk backwards up your stairs. Hopefully not too many stairs. Now safely and slowly crab walk forward down your stairs. So those are some interesting things that you can be working on today. All right. Once again, I'm going to show you my mask. If you decide to make a mask and put on Seesaw, I would love to see it. All right. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.